Welcome to Bonehead. To start out this episode, I really want to thank Christina Lewis and Mercedes Reese for making these Bonehead glasses. Bonehead humor. On the other one's got our logo. It's hard to see because of the clear glass, but pretty soon we'll have these on our website.
If you drink some milk, they could see it, but no, you can't drink healthy. Bones falling apart.
Here's the Dean Martin. So this is actually Diet Dr. Pepper. There's nothing in this but that.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. There really isn't. But anyway,
there's some air in there, I'm sure.
We're going to have those on our website before long.
That's just science.
Yeah. For your love gift of $1,000, though, Joe will send you the one he just drank out of.
Yeah, for $50 and half the meat in your freezer, I'll bring it to your house.
That's service.
That's service with a smile.
Should we probably go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about?
No.
Oh my God! Did you see that last episode of Bonehead?
The one?
That one? Yeah.
If things go well, that one will be an awesome one that featured Nicholas Straught. His name's not Nicholas. It's not Nicholas, but I just like saying Nicholas.
So we can't talk Mick Strawn, but we are talking about today
cartoons.
Oh.
From
the 1980s.
The 1980s.
Hold on,
where denim and big hair were bad mistakes.
Denim is never a bad mistake. Now,
if it's on your legs,
let me channel Craig. Let me channel Craig Dennis. Why don't you all come back to the three-dimensional world?
Because the 2D world is amazing.
I'd say because I've seen the three-dimensional world. It's inhabited by things.
Why do you it's not filled with soldiers with bad shots.
Why do you have that thing on your hand?
Oh, it's my hand gets cold.
Glad you set him up for that, Joe. Thank you.
Thank
you for encouraging him to do that.
Every.
That's right. The glove does fit, so you don't have to quit.
Yes, that's right. For the people who are listening to us in the podcast.
That was hilarious 32 years ago.
I didn't hear a word he said.
If the love does fit. I could never find a love that fit me.
Love me, say that you love me.
Wrong me.
I know more words.
Peter McNichol.
I know more words to mouth.
I bet you do, Mayor Bainbridge.
Anyway, so we're talking about 80s cartoons, right?
Yes, the 80s cartoons. And actually I was saying about this as we were talking about what we were going to do. Do you think the 80s, I'm going to exclude Disney from this conversation, but 80s were probably the height of animation as far as everybody got involved in animation.
I don't know. I think it may be the height of pop culture because it's never left. In so many ways. I mean, and if you just take pop culture, Ready Player One plays on that.
It's an homage to the 80s.
We had a new Ghostbusters movie last year, basically a reboot. I mean, everything that they could rob, steal, or take away. Yeah. I mean, Die Hard probably has been made, 55,000 times?
Yeah.
Right? Haley's right. Nakatomi.
I was wondering what she was doing. I thought she was choking.
But I don't know.
But none of us got up to help.
Pop culture.
I was getting ready to, but then Joe did that. I was like, she's doing Nakatomi.
CNN came along in the 80s.
Yeah.
A 24-hour news cycle. That's never left us. It's only gotten worse. Reaganomics never really left us. That's the same. So.
And the ghost of Reagan.
Madonna never left us.
Well, she left Guy Ritchie.
Kind of probably helped him.
That just fell flat.
Yeah.
Look it up, kids.
Yeah, I know. But, it's never really left us. So, 80s, a lot of these have been made movies out of them. G.I. Joe, Transformers.
And will be movies again.
They're
working on a He-Man movie again.
That's been in development for years.
Well, but allegedly...
There will eventually be another G.I. Joe film.
That's moving forward now.
There will be more Transformer films. DuckTales has been rebooted.
You know what I'm looking forward to?
Yeah.
You know what I'm looking forward to, though? A good Transformers film.
Yeah, that's never...
we're going to make Transmorphers, and we're going to knock it... Or we're going to make the GoBots.
GoBots.
I was going to say Transmorphers has already been made.
GoBots.
With Bruce Boxleitner.
Yeah, Transmorphers.
So what else do we have up there? Ghostbusters has got a reboot. Star Wars, Droids, which never left us, right?
No.
We still have Star Wars.
Which had a great
Scooby-Doo gets rebooted about every decade.
Every decade. The Cartoon Network dishes out a Scooby-Doo
this
cartoon
is true.
movie.
This is something I learned.
But don't they change it up and do something
I'll talk about this, but that was the last of the continuous Scooby-Doos. Started in 1969, closed out at the end of 1985. That was the last Scooby-Doo that was ran in sequence.
Oh, so that would have been
1969.
the original cartoon all the way through like 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Those are the same characters.
There was
in
always
sequence?
one in production
Was
until
correct.
the end of 13
I didn't
Ghosts of
know
Scooby-Doo.
that. So 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo killed it.
Well,
Vincent Price killed the show.
no. When we get to, I'm gonna let
Let's watch him boil.
no. I'm gonna let Chad get to talk about Ghostbusters because I found out what did kill Scooby Doo, and it's fascinating. You'll be
we could
shocked.
jump into it because if we're going to talk about 80s cartoons, the three of us all agree that the real Ghostbusters
It's really good.
is really
Yeah.
good,
And
and it still holds up.
It still holds up. I watched some of it. Because the thing I was going to throw out, Michael Bay is the director of the Transmorphers movies, of the Transformers movies. And Michael Bay is a man. I assume he's a mammal. I assume he's a hydrogen-based life form. I like The Rock and Bad Boys 2,
The Rock, Bad Boys 2.
directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Oh, The Rock. Oh, I thought you meant The Rock. I thought you said The Rock in Bad Boys 2.
No, I like
I'm
The
like, no,
Rock.
he's in
There's-
Pain and
I
Gain.
like Bad Boys 2.
No, he likes The Rock. There's The Rock
Pain and
in
Gain's
one scene.
is an entertaining movie.
It's an entertaining movie.
But those Transformer films are terrible. Where I was going with this is that Michael Bay has said more than once, and I saw him say it in an interview, that basically Transformers the cartoon sucked.
He's a jackass.
But he said it,
Yeah.
and they've kept letting him make them, and they make money.
Mm-hmm.
And this last one didn't make as much money, but
But it's
they
still
make
made
all their
money.
money overseas,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
that's where a lot of these tentpole films, you're like, well, Tom Cruise's Mummy doesn't even make $100 million. It costs $200 million. How does it? It's overseas. That's where
Overseas.
the money's made.
Yeah.
International now.
International
is topping
sales. That's
American.
where it is, and that's the reason why there's a whole sequence in one of the Transformer films, right, that takes place in China,
Yeah.
Well,
and that's
even-
because of the Chinese market.
I think Iron Man 2, they even filmed additional scenes which aren't in the American cut where they had Chinese actors and it took place
In China.
China and it was Tony Stark visiting China. And that's-
So I'm going along a long-winded way of saying, and I apologize for this, giving you a little bit of backstory, that I do agree with him. I don't think Transformers the cartoon sucks. It's probably really dated. Some of it doesn't hold up.
Meh.
And a lot of these things, I think, probably more than the other two Boneheads, are not very good.
What's not very good?
A lot of them.
No, you're out of your mind. Do not bring up He-Man. He-Man has some still has some entertaining episodes.
I would like to do the movie, but the name is stupid. He-Man.
Yeah, but
It's dumb. And now I know why it's dumb. So if you guys are out there, if you have Netflix or as George Carlin says, you have illegal cable hookup somewhere, some
Yeah.
way, go ahead and watch. It's a documentary. It's 4 parts. It's supposed to be 8 according to the credits, but it's 4 parts on Netflix. It's called The Toy What?
the toys that made us.
The Toys That Made Us. There's a great one. The 2 best ones, there's 4 of them, about Barbie, He-Man, G.I. Joe, and
Star Wars.
Kenner. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but the 2 best are Barbie and He-Man.
Man, yes.
Watch it about He-Man, and then come back to me because it explains so much. What
Because
drove me crazy.
He-Man is the cartoon was the first incident of where a cartoon was made to explicitly to promote a toy line.
Yeah.
Several
That had been done before that the toy line existed, or that the cartoon existed, and then they made toys.
Yeah, which that goes without saying. But this is the first time where a cartoon was made because they had a toy product to sell,
And they needed to sell it.
and they needed to sell it.
And they made a deal with Filmation,
Filmation,
and they expected to barely break even.
yeah, they expected barely break even, and then for 5 years in a row, they just kept increasing, like doubling their money from just for 5 years. So yeah, but I agree with Joe. You watch the cartoon, a lot of it doesn't hold up. There are still some gems, and they do, and it is done on the cheap. You can tell because every episode they recycle the same images over and over again of He-Man squatted over, throwing the sword from one hand to the other. Which why do they do that?
And they recycle by the power of Grayskull, him turning into from Adam to.
And doing the POV of him punching something.
It's cheap. Filmation was known for doing cheap animation.
Yes, and which is why they went to Filmation to begin with.
Filmation did the other Ghostbusters, not that's the reason why that's called the real Ghostbusters.
Based on the original Ghost. Actually, there's 2 reasons it's called the real Ghostbusters. But the original Ghostbusters, the term was from a show that was live action from the 70s, I believe, with Larry Storch,
How did you pull that out of your butt?
And Larry Storch is in a bunch of things that are bad, including Silence of the Hands. There you go, which is a parody of Silence of the Lambs. Anyway, Larry Storch.
And doesn't
Bob Burns.
No. Married with
Burns?
Children. The Christina Applegate's character, she goes to the Larry Storch School of Acting.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a whole other episode.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
keep
Go
going.
ahead.
But Larry Storch and Bob Burns was in it as the gorilla.
Bob Burns played the gorilla a lot. Who's Bob Burns? We've met Bob Burns.
Bob Burns is a walking encyclopedia of information
and owning
collector.
film. He
Yeah.
owns
He owns the original King
Armature
Kong.
of King Kong.
we have touched it, which sounds weird, but the three Boneheads have their picture with it
Yeah.
of the original Armature
Because
of
the
King Kong.
Smithsonian is wanting it. He said that they can fight for it later.
Yes.
Because his
Once he's
big
dead.
thing was, he says, because we saw it, and it isn't all
Metal.
moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a moment of all because that's King Kong, and it looks, the fur rotted off, and it's literally just the
it's
armature.
a metal
It's a
armature.
metal-
That's it.
looks like a little puppet thing.
Oh my God,
And,
isn't that great?
And his comment was, when we saw it, we were like, I just wanted to see it. And he goes, no, touch it. It's meant to be touched. And he goes, that's why he doesn't want the Smithsonian to have it. It was something to be used. And he said that behind the display case.
And it's solid steel.
Yeah.
You can touch it. It's
you're
what
not
we're
gonna
talking
break that
about.
apart.
Over 80 years later.
Yeah.
It is. There's no dings on it. There's no dents.
No.
It's not rusted.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm just going off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're
but-
talking about 80s cartoons. I'm reliving a moment. I'm getting old.
But y'all have talked about He-Man a
Yep.
little bit.
And we'll go back to He-Man.
wanna-
I just wanted to.
Well, you want to talk about Real Ghostbusters. Both of those connect to what I want to talk about. So if you want to go ahead and knock Real Ghostbusters out, I'll let you get to this. Because I'm fascinated.
The real Ghostbusters for me is the ultimate 80s cartoon.
How did it come about? Other than the Ghostbusters movie, do you know the actual?
No, I don't know. It came about because of the movie.
Yeah,
Like,
but I
once-
mean, how did it get put together? Why did they not want to pay the rights to the actors? Is that the reason why they don't look like each
They
other?
did open casting, right? Because
Well, why they
Winston-
don't look like each other though? Why they don't look like the characters?
That I would imagine, and I have no data to back this up, but I would imagine that's toy sales.
Yeah, I think it's money too, but
It's
I don't
money.
know. They
But
didn't
it's
want to pay
money
Bill
and
Murray, Harold Ramis.
Yeah, it's money and it's toy sales because they don't even wear the same color jumpsuit.
no.
Well, that's also too the reason for that is
and they
because
changed Ecto-1.
because when you're doing a cartoon, you're not going to keep the audience's attention with just dull brown uniforms.
Yeah.
They had to be colorful, which is why Egon has a blue. Peter Venkman has a dark brown. Winston has a light blue, I believe, and Ray has the actual.
should we
original
tell the bit of information about Winston about the voice?
Oh yeah, the true story behind Winston was
Of who did the voice?
Ernie Hudson went out to be Winston in the cartoon. He wanted the role. He liked doing Winston.
Ernie Hudson played Winston in the movies.
In the movie, and he went to the casting call, and it came down to him and Arsenio Hall. Chad, who got that part?
That would be Arsenio Hall.
They turned down Winston for the voice of Winston.
Who voiced him and played him in the movie. When he told that story, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's so we literally could have had one of the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, voiced by a real Ghostbuster,
Buster.
and it didn't come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had Maurice LaMarche, who, by the way, is an icon to me.
I was gonna
Well,
say,
he's an icon
and
if you're into voice acting.
I would say, and if you look at these, Maurice LaMarche pops up.
In every single one?
No, in a lot.
And the other person who played Ray, Frank Welker,
Who pops up in all of
these, who, by the way, has probably the longest credit list in IMDb.
If, by the way,
if there's an animal sound voice,
Scooby-Doo.
yeah, and Scooby.
Scooby-Doo.
If there's an animal voice that needs to be done in movies, they usually go to Frank Welker to do it.
He is the closest we have in modern voice acting to Mel Blanc, I would argue. Mel Blanc used to be your go-to, now it's Frank Welker.
Yeah.
But, and by the way, Frank Welker, if you're planning a comic convention, convention of any form, get Frank Welker.
Yeah.
Comic-Con?
Comic-Con. Get Frank Welker. Why would you not try to get... They're getting Tara Strong, by the way. But Frank Welker.
Love to hear an American Pie.
But yeah, and also Lorenzo Music, who played Peter Venkman, who
Was the voice.
who did the voice of Garfield, which and then the humor
And mashed
of that.
potatoes commercials.
And yeah, and then who the funny part of that is he played a character played by Bill Murray. Bill Murray went on to play Garfield in the early 2000
Now-
Garfields, who
Because he died by then too.
Yeah,
right?
Lorenzo Music had been gone.
But
now.
when was it? Who did Dave Coulier voice?
He went in season 3 of Ghostbusters. He went on to voice Peter Venkman. He replaced Lorenzo Music.
Why did they replace Lorenzo
I
Music?
can't remember why.
I read an interview where Bill Murray actually was slightly involved in that because they asked him something about doing about the cartoon, and he said, "That's all right. That doesn't sound like me." And that's the story that Bill Murray himself said, and he said it was a throwaway comment. He said it's all right. You know, I'll bet Bill Murray.
I can't imagine he even watched it.
That's what I was about to say, and I would imagine he just off the cuff made the comment. That doesn't really sound like me, and that's one of that's the only story I've ever heard that kind of explained what happened there.
Well, that's interesting. But anyway,
just the real Ghostbusters. It's an amazing cartoon. Most of them were written by
JMS.
John Michael Straczynski, who went on to create Babylon 5, writes for comic books now. Very creative man. And if you watch those episodes, I do agree with Chad. That's for animated cartoons, that's phenomenal writing.
It's always the writing. That every one that you go, oh, that doesn't hold up. And you can forgive the animation because you forgive so many things because it's 40, 30 years old. Yeah. It's the writing.
And the real Ghostbusters, it was just well written. Everything about the real Ghostbusters was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But James, you said you had a tie-in from the real Ghostbusters.
I do. This is true. The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. So it's on the table there. It was my favorite as a kid. I loved Vincent Price as a kid. I still love Vincent Price. He's dead.
He died?
He died.
Spoiler alert.
But if you're a big fan... It's
Does
funny,
Bella know?
It's fun.
What about Boris? Is he over it?
Oh my God.
Is Boris... Is Boris okay?
He's all right.
What about Claude Rains?
Oh my God, you beat me to Claude Rains.
Natasha comforted him. I haven't seen Claude Rains.
Oh.
That's an Invisible Man joke. Anyway, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo was the last of the Scooby-Doo series that shot in a row because they started in 1969, they closed out in 1985, and they got rebooted 2 years later. I'll talk about that in a second. But here's the funny part about this that I thought you all might actually like to know.
That long change.
It was the 7th and final straight-run Scooby-Doo. It only ran 13 episodes. I'm going to come back to some of the people that were involved in it, but the gang was reduced down to Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy.
The most beloved character since Jar Jar Binks.
They added Flim Flam, which was a con artist that they met in the Himalayas. He was originally intended to be Latino. They never explained that, how he got to the Himalayas.
That's just sexist.
But the funny part about that was the people involved with it literally said the only reason they added that character was because the network said they needed to. They wanted more Latino children on television at that point. I don't know what's happened in 1985. If anybody knows the history of what, but they wanted more Latino.
Yeah, call up Bonehead Studios. We'll have you on the show.
But you have a landline.
It was
no. Okay.
It was.
They're going to have to use that Ouija board. I recommend the Stranger Things version.
Yeah.
And if you guys are looking for last minute Christmas gifts, I didn't get that Golden Girls Monopoly.
Monopoly, yeah. But it did have Vincent Price in it. He voiced Vincent Van Gogh, which was, of course, loosely based on him. Mm-hmm. That was the big claim to fame with it. The other thing, though, was because of Ghostbusters, the movie, it introduced real ghosts. Shaggy and Scooby stupidly released...
Instead of Old Man Abernathy.
Curse you, Old Man Abernathy. In this episode, we teamed up with Batman. We knew it was either Bruce Wayne or Mr. Jenkins. It turned out to be Mr. Jenkins.
He made this floating ghost shit with a thing of tinfoil and a banana peel.
But MacGyvered the shit out of it.
So Vincent Price did the voiceover. Yeah. It actually did okay. It was continuing the success they had with Scooby-Doo before. And it had people in the background that worked on it, like Tom Ruger, who I'm going to talk about in a second, who went on to do great things. However, this is what actually caused it to be canceled. Jesus. What happened? There's a 1985 documentary that came out 2 weeks after the first episode. I have so many
jokes, but I don't know where to take them for this episode because we need the viewers.
2 weeks after the first episode aired, there was a documentary, quote-unquote, released that featured the Apostle Gary Greenwald and Phil Phillips. Phil Phillips wrote such books such as If You Like Halloween, You're Going to Hell. If You Like The only book he wrote that I actually...
Oh my God. I don't know where you're going with this.
The only book he wrote that actually was like, this may have merit was, he wrote a book condemning Barney in 1992 saying that Barney taught kids that dinosaurs were real and therefore were sinful.
Hell yes.
Anyway.
Do you ever realize how dark that show is? How many times they replaced the kids on Barney?
Oh, yeah.
They replaced them frequently, which brings up the question, what's happening to those kids? You know what's happening to them? Barney's eating them.
But
no, they're going to a small world.
No, Barney eats their... I was going to say Barney eats their crap. No, he eats the kids. He doesn't eat their crap.
No, we're eating Barney's crap by watching it.
They made a 2-hour documentary. They made a 2-hour documentary that was bought by churches and showed during church services, and shown actually some networks picked it up. Called I need to get this title correct. Basically, saying that animation and the toys that it was selling was converting your children to Satanism.
How does this get us to Brave Star?
He-Man. I want to talk about how Thundercats is a POS.
They targeted 2 shows. 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which didn't have a toy line, and He-Man. Here's how He-Man escaped. In the movie, they referred to He-Man as fighting...
He had to jump something.
They referred that He-Man fought in Etheria, and we're on an entire tirade about how they were talking about...
I'm going to punch you in the face. Etheria is She-Ra. Eternia is He-Man.
Well, guess what? Etheria was She-Ra because they were making fun of these guys. Because when people started saying, we're not going to buy your toys anymore, they went, whoa. Their data was wrong. He doesn't fight in Etheria. He fights in Eternia. No. And parents went, oh, well, okay then.
No, I don't believe that because nobody listens to facts.
Well, it's the 80s. It was a
that was
time.
Before alternative facts.
But
before the dark
13
times.
Ghosts of Scooby-Doo faced a huge tirade and a huge backlash. Matter of fact, the 13 episodes that were made, not all of them aired. They only aired 11 of them. They actually pulled it because they got so much of a kickback about converting kids to Satanism. Now, I've watched that several times. It's not that good. I mean, it's Vincent Price is great, it's Vincent Van Gogh. But the legacy they had of it is when they've redone other Scooby-Doos, they've made fun of it quite a bit. There's an episode of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated where they
I think Chad's crying.
No.
Where they go
it's coming down.
Where they go into a wax museum.
You made Chad cry.
Where there's a wax museum. Is it because I said Etheria or Eternia?
No,
I think it's because he knows he's never getting this part of his life back.
Yeah, I don't like Scooby-Doo.
Well,
I hate Scooby-Doo.
This is the one Scooby-Doo that I liked as a kid because it had ghosts in it.
I didn't even like Scooby-Doo as a kid.
But the funny part about that,
I prefer Jabberjaw.
All of this is to say is that when they did that, it took the attention off of the real Ghostbusters, which was also going to be cited. But because they only focused on the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, nobody ever went after Ghostbusters. So
you got us here to give us that.
Well, the other part about it is Tom Ruger. You all, if you like animation,
who invented the Smith & Wesson?
No, you should know Tom Ruger because Tom Ruger was so furious about it all that he went, screw it, let's take Scooby-Doo off the air for 2 years, I'll retool it, we'll relaunch it. He created a show called A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and the number one thing that he did was he said, we got to break the fourth wall. We got to have people talking to the audience. Which was then seen by a company that was owned by this upstart Spielberg fellow who went to Tom Ruger and said, hey, I liked what you did where you broke the fourth wall. We're trying to reinvent some zany cartoons. And Tom Ruger went on to create and Tiny Toons with Amblin. And it all was because
they're zany to the max.
He got so peeved off about everything that happened.
They have pay-or-play contracts, which is one of the most obscure jokes.
I know now I'm going to get blowback later about he went off on this tirade. But the interesting part about 13 Years of Scooby-Doo was it was also the height of cartoons being attacked in some ways for being just commercials, and it was also what gave us in some warped way Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, which closed out the 80s and brought us into the 90s animation. There you go.
I forgot who I am.
You weren't anybody of import.
I mean, we got
a long time to talk about the 13 Ghosts of Scooby shit.
So we talked about Ghostbusters. We have to bring up G.I. Joe.
Well,
Why?
Because G.I. Joe's fantastic, and it still is.
Oh, no, it's not. We've got a weather machine.
Hold on, no, it's called the Weather Dominator.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up.
Jackass.
I never liked it as a kid.
Mass Effect will kick your ass.
I never liked it as a kid.
Well, actually,
I never liked it as a kid. I always
Did
thought,
you really?
No, I never. We never got to watch.
Here's
it.
another funny thing. I think people who don't know us well, or people don't know us well enough who watch this, who enjoy the show, think that we argue even worse behind the scenes. I want to say this. So I actually didn't know you didn't like G.I. Joe.
I am
What the
shocked
hell's
to
wrong
hear
with
this.
you?
Seriously.
I never
City of
watched
Gold.
it,
You want to talk about City of Gold at some
do.
point?
Oh, yeah, pull Silverhawks out of your ass.
No.
I just want to throw out your 80s cartoons.
I don't. By the way, I looked up the top 10.
Oh,
that
we're
were
not talking.
rated,
Yeah.
and there were 3 on there I'd never heard of, and I forgot them or whatever. I
Oh shit! I wish you would have.
Yeah, that would have been helpful if we actually did research.
Yeah.
I did research, and y'all rolled your eyes when I give you data.
G.I. Joe had been around for a while. It was an actual, like
1950s,
if you're
right?
Amigo.
60s.
Amigo didn't make it, but if you know what Mego toys are, it's basically what it was.
Yeah.
And they shrunk them down to 3 and a quarter
3 and a quarter.
because of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Star
No,
Wars.
no. They said no. You're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was Star Wars shrunk them down.
I got my
'Cause they had to get 'em
documentary
out.
made up because he said, how big do you want to make the Star Wars figure? This. And then
Yeah,
it was
because they had to get them out. Remember?
Yep.
Because Star Wars was coming and nobody thought it was going to make any money, so they had to compete, and they shrunk them down from blah to blah.
Yeah.
And they sold accessories and all the things with them. G.I. Joe.
And Kung Fu Grip.
They get to come through grip. Check out the documentary. I'm not going to give all that away. We're going to talk about the cartoons.
Yeah.
I loved it as a kid. I loved that. It was probably my favorite. That followed by Masters of the Universe, and then probably Transformers. Out of these, as a child. Now, as a grown man, I've went back and rewatched most of them. That's my G.I. Joe. These aren't all mine, but that's my G.I. Joe at the end. Every once in a while I get nostalgic and I'll put one. Actually, they're on Netflix. I'll go on Netflix and watch them. I put one on, but I don't know that I sit around to watch it for enjoyment. It's really like South Park and Member Berries. Remember Chewbacca? I remember Destro?
I
Yes,
still watch
remember
it for
Destro.
entertainment.
Yeah, but you watch a lot of cartoons.
Yeah.
For entertainment.
By the way, most of the
three of us,
most of the DVDs on this table are mine.
out of the 3 of us, you watch more cartoons,
And I have a lot more. Yeah, I watch them every night before I go to bed. Actually.
right?
So yeah.
Yeah.
But no, G.I. Joe.
But I love it.
You know, we were watching G.I. Joe in our late 20s, and even when they would do because in the DVDs they have the commercial breaks on there. Not the actual commercial breaks, but the lead into the commercial break when they go da 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 da. We'd go yay!
But I have to, as an adult, realize, as my emotions go, that it's not so much because it's so entertaining. Although,
They are entertaining, but the stories are awful.
the story, it's not as good a writing.
Right.
The compliment I'll throw at it, and it goes back to the toys, are the characters. The reason why it holds up is because there's so many cool characters.
Yes.
But that goes back to the toy line. It really has nothing to do.
Yeah, and the characters in the cartoons, for instance, is like I said, with G.I. Joe, with Transformers, with He-Man, they are one-dimensional characters. They have that one little niche.
Yeah.
Mini faces have mini faces.
Like Shipwrecked.
Yeah.
He got shipwrecked.
Who's a snow guy?
Oh
Snow Job.
No, it's not
Snow
Snow Job. It's Avalanche, I think.
I do want to say
Let's stick with Snow Job.
Yeah, you can stick with Snow
Let me
Job.
break the fourth wall. Hey, audience, watch me make him really mad. The show didn't get good till Sergeant Slaughter came in.
You bastard!
That doesn't bother me.
It bothers me.
I loved it. Growing up,
I love Sergeant Slaughter when he came up there and did that General Patton ripoff intro.
Hold on. If any of you are there watching this, you can remember watching the USA Network Cartoon Express. Remember?
Yeah.
And they would have, when they do the 5-part, loved the 5-parter. When you got the long story arc for G.I. Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And he would do the intros for them.
Yep.
Loved them.
Yeah. No, I love them
And
too.
they had been off the air by then for years.
Yeah, and I loved them too. And of course, then they removed him when he decided to become a heel in wrestling and started.
Is that the reason?
Yeah, because he switched from being American to pro Iraq.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and that's why they pulled him off the cartoon. But anyway.
Haley's letting us know we're already 30 minutes in. And we've got one James story.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
No, keep defending Shipwreck, though.
But no,
Snow Job.
Here's the funny part about G.I. Joe's, and one of my favorites but these two despise, Cops, Central Organization of Police
I
Specialists,
thought you were going to say something else.
fighting
I
crime,
don't watch that show.
fighting crime in a future time.
It's always been Bubbles.
Is
what?
So with G.I. Joe, this is the funny part about this too. You know, again,
I have so many bad jokes about what cops could have been.
the
Sorry, keep
sloppy,
going.
you know.
Oh, there's another one.
Anyway, you know,
He sure is slippery.
each
in here.
character was a specialist in a certain field. Like shipwreck was Navy, sea, you know, whatever.
Duke, Flint,
You know, they all had.
Lady Jane, redheaded chick,
They had the one medic. They had the one. They had the one
code
deep sea.
breaker,
Yeah, they had the one deep sea
What
guy.
Codebreaker do?
frog dude.
But you know,
I named all these guys. Snow job.
why isn't there a collective group of specialists in these certain fields? You know, when they go to fight their enemies, it's just the one guy.
Well, if he gets shot by Deathstroke.
Yeah, it's just like, oh shit, we don't
Cobra
have a
Commander.
medic.
Well, thank God.
We just brought the one.
Thank God Cobra Commander is a dumbass.
Yeah.
I mean, an absolute blithering idiot.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I will give G.I. Joe.
Although I love the character Cobra Commander. I actually right now am thinking, laughing about
Was
it.
it Serpentor?
Serpentor.
The later one?
Cobra. La 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 la.
Dr. Mindbender, which why the hell did they give him that name?
That's an awesome name, actually.
I'll be honest though, the thing that G.I. Joe has given me, and I will give G.I. Joe credit
Herpes.
for, is so many great Robot Chicken. Which, by the way, you can't talk about 90s anime or 80s animation without saying.
Yeah, go out and check out Robot Chicken.
Seth Green, you owe the 80s money. But Robot Chicken has done more making fun of the one that it was repeating, and I caught it. Was where G.I. Joe is actually going into Iraq. And it's like, now here's what we gotta do. We've got to come up with this really advanced, and he's supposed to be leading, Duke is supposed to be leading Navy SEALs, and they're like, and the one guy goes, we're gonna go in, exterminate his men. No, boys, you can't do that. You shoot over their heads, and they'll get scared and run away. And these Talablams.
Talablams.
All right.
Let's do our
Oh
own
my
show.
God. G.I. Joe versus the
The
Talablams.
Talablams.
Start killing everybody left and right. But anyway, yes, no. I never liked G.I. Joe as a kid. It
I
never
don't
did
understand
appeal
why
to
you
me.
didn't
I don't
G.I.
see how you
Joe.
cannot watch G.I. Joe and just like your heart would
Did you like
race.
Mask?
You know what? Mask came on a little bit after G.I. Joe because it was basically a high-tech
They're here to save
ripoff.
the day or something.
Mask Crusaders who will operate.
They did have one of the best theme songs.
They did, and I love
Tracker's
that.
gonna lead the mission.
I had the
and it was the dumbest concept for a cartoon/toy line. Oh, here's a helicopter that turns into a plane.
Oh, well, there's
No,
actually...
but I love that toy. I had it.
There's a great Robot Chicken that makes fun of that too, where their gas station was a base that transformed, and there's people pulling up going, "I'm trying to get gas.
Yes.
I just need gas," and they're in there going, "If we ignore them, they'll go away." And other people are pulling in honking, going, "Just pump your gas," and go, "They won't turn the pumps on," and it goes on and on, and I'm like, that's.
And if you're watching this thinking, why don't they talk about X, Y, and Z? This is where you should start live tweeting the show, telling us what we should talk about.
But anyway, yes, I did like Mask. But I think I like Mask.
I'd like to see an episode. I haven't seen it.
I'm sure, and that's what I'm about to say.
Mask scared the shit out of me to walk behind a horse.
Yeah, well,
because they always had the PSAs at the end, and there's a half a dozen that had "Don't walk behind a horse," or because you'll get kicked.
Every
you don't remember this?
No, I don't remember Mask having it.
The R2D2 ripoff that's in Mask. Gets the shit kicked out of it.
He turned into a
scooter.
Yeah.
Gets the shit kicked out of it by a horse because it walked behind a horse. I
remember the G.I. Joe one about not playing with power lines, which as a kid, who the hell would go pick up a down power line even as a kid? No, I was afraid of electricity. I stuck my tongue in a light socket. This is why I am the way that I am.
You're not even afraid of high explosives.
G.I. Joe.
I have a story. Meet me at one of our cons and buy me a drink, and I'll tell you all about
G.I. Joe, all
Chad
of
and explosives and Morehead
And
State.
there's a backstory behind that. We talked about the Garbage Pail Kids cartoon never got released in the U.S. because there was a time when your show had to have educational
and have
impact.
a PSA at the end.
So that's why G.I. Joe started adding that.
The more you know.
Yeah, the knowing it's half the battle, all of that stuff.
Yeah, the more you know is NBC, you jackass.
I just like saying the more you know.
But
you just have a big.
So that's why
smile.
a ton of them added all those PSA. He-Man did it for a while as well.
No, He-Man did it every episode. At the end of every episode, there would be a.
It would be
a recap of hey,
Like
Did
a
you see
Orco.
how Man-E-Faces ate that cereal out of a toilet? You shouldn't do
It
that.
was more like if Orko had just told the truth instead
yeah.
of lying to the prostitute, then he wouldn't have.
He wouldn't have got magical fairy herpes.
He wouldn't have got scabies down his magical hole.
That's right, kids.
Magical scabies
Jerry
hole.
Springer ripped off He-Man because Jerry
That's
Springer.
true.
By the way, Haley, if you name this episode Magical Fairy Herpes, I'll pay you $5.
Why can't we do scaby hole?
No, Magical Fairy Herpes.
Kids,
They're delicious.
Kids are delicious.
There's room in both your lives for scabies and herpes.
We're getting off topic.
Yeah.
But anyway, no,
I feel
think,
like I need some penicillin.
I think you're right though. They all did have that, and I do think
They all
you're
have
right. I do remember a G.I. Joe one about not walking behind the horse. What was happening in 1980s America
It was
where
just
every
ridiculous.
kid...
And I would see TV shows as a kid. I can remember this, and I would see, let's say there's a guy walking, and I was like, why is he walking behind that horse?
Yeah.
That is dangerous as
Well, that's
hell.
what it's-
And by the way, I grew up in Kentucky. I've never been on a horse in my life. I've got bourbon down, but I've never been on a horse.
I was going to say, I've been on horses, and it is true. But it's not, you can't walk behind them. You just can't spook them. You put your hand, I'm back here, horse, don't kick.
Give him a lovely tap on the bottom.
I mean, you don't.
That's how I
And
manage.
by the way, logic says you never hang around the back of a horse anyway. Why would you do that? That's where poop comes out.
And on that note,
So-
I like G.I. Joe. I enjoy it. They made 2 movies out of it. Neither one of them are very good.
No.
They're making a third.
They're fairly
Well, they're
entertaining.
rebooting it.
Yeah.
They're pretty much pieces of crap made by people that. And here's the other thing that kills me about these. It's back and go back to Michael Bay. Why do they always pick the people to make these movies who don't even like the original source material?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why?
Yeah.
I never understand that. Like Fantastic Four has been made 3 times. Why have they never made you can't
Why
tell
can't
me.
Warner Brothers make a good DC Comics movie with the exception of Wonder Woman
You can't tell
and
me-
the Batman movies?
You can't tell me that there's not people out there that understand the source material and that would say, "Oh, G.I. Joe, I know what I'll do." So I finally wrote one correct decision. The Rock is Roadblock. That's
Yeah.
probably it.
Yeah.
And you go, "Oh, you just get all these actors
And
in
he
a big
didn't say
budget film."
one rhyme in the movie.
Yeah, and you get all these actors and you get big names to play them.
Roadblock was
I know that.
And they
Chad.
go across
I don't like
the
it. I
world
know
fighting
it.
crime and whatever against a terrorist organization. I don't understand how they screw all that up. At all.
I don't know.
Anyway, moving right along.
Let's talk about. It's not on the table, but we got to talk about how. I think all 3 of us liked it.
Oh, and watch the Weather Dominator episode. James sucks.
It's
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
And
It's
the
got
Mass Device.
Mass Device. I
But
said
I've
Mass
got a
Effect
question.
earlier.
Am I remembering
Actually,
this wrong?
shit, I really want to go watch it now. Damn it, James.
Am I remembering this wrong? That the Weather Dominator, the pieces get scattered around?
Yeah, and
the
they
world?
have to go get them. When did they bring in the bats?
When does that make
The
sense?
android. It doesn't
That
make
was
any
what
sense.
Serpent. That was the
what I'm
introduction.
saying.
Oh my God, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Chocolate don't have to make sense.
The bats got introduced with the
Chocolate has to follow
with
some logic.
Serpentor.
Serpentor, when they were building Serpentor.
Serpentor, yeah, that's when bats came. But
Building Serpentor.
God, I want to
did
go
we
watch
all
it right
did
now.
we all 3 like Thundercats as a kid?
No, I didn't care for it.
James,
No, I liked it as a kid.
it does not hold up.
No, it doesn't.
And it makes no sense.
I didn't care
thing
for
that
it.
makes sense about that, and it literally watching it as an adult, I went, oh. Was why they called Earth Third Earth, because it was a third planet, and it was called Earth, so it was Third Earth. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but what the hell does this? I don't understand the whole point of the
How
the
does
concept
he
of the
age?
show.
How does he? No, it doesn't make sense.
Well,
Like,
though, what's the point of the sword other than it gets bigger?
There's the robot chicken.
It's
about that.
literally-
That's
yeah.
what it's.
I am doing this.
Sword of Omens.
Can I show you my sword that gets bigger? Because
Well,
it's right over there in the corner behind Haley,
And here's the thing about that is
Haley.
Mumra,
which is a dumb name.
but was
Almost
a cool
as dumb.
villain.
As He-Man.
It's a great villain.
Was
man.
a
Nothing
great
is
villain.
dumber
that
than He-Man.
Did nothing. Like you had this pretty much undead villain thing.
And he turned into this big muscular thing.
So why are they fighting Mumra if they're
I have
cats?
no idea. That's the other thing. He's just on
Well,
the
you
planet.
see, Mumra's
and
got
he
the
wants-
mummy thing that hangs
No,
down.
I
The
get
cats like to
Mumra.
bat that around.
Oh!
And he wants the Sword of Omens because apparently it's this all-powerful thing. But why is it all-powerful? All it does is get bigger, and you can hold it up to your eyes and
it see
see
things.
something that's happening at that moment.
Let's go back to He-Man for a second.
I feel like I'm yelling.
As you are, but that's okay. Let's go back to He-Man for a second. As far
No!
as batshit nuts, it makes no sense.
Okay.
what's the vehicle? The track thing?
Oh,
The tracker thing, yeah.
Where there's not
I think
even...
it's called a tack track.
Where there's
It
no
is.
wheels.
You're right.
It's an oval that goes up.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And why is it that they're walking around in loincloths, but clearly it's also science fiction?
Because
I know why. Because they made it up around a marketing table
Yep.
and threw
his
everything at
mother's
it.
from Earth, though, right?
Huh?
His mother's from Earth, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Look, okay.
No, she is. She is.
She's an astronaut.
She's an astronaut that crash landed on Eternia.
Where do they explain that? Crap.
In the
Oh,
episode.
maybe you should look it up and stop G.I. Joeing all the time.
And how Tila is actually the daughter of the sorceress, but the sorceress had to give her up. That's how Manny Arms got her.
Oh, really?
Man at Arms.
Is it because she was Catholic? Get yourself to a nunnery!
We done went deep.
Oh,
Yeah.
the bod.
Um,
There's like 4 people going out there because he just makes
God, I just want to keep crapping on Thundercats because
I
that's
didn't
the,
like it as a kid.
but that's
so
the
I
only
have no-
one that I
have no
loved as a
doubt.
kid that I do not own because it sucks so bad.
no, Thundercats doesn't make a lot of sense. The reboot.
Is it
made
worse than
even less.
She-Ra?
Yes.
Because I loved Hordak, and I tried rewatching She-Ra. Cause
Oh, no, it's
I had
awful.
all the evil horde. I mean, I love the evil hordes.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Leech Man.
oh, I had that guy. Yeah, I still got that guy.
Stuck him on my head, got a hickey from it.
That's the only hickey you were getting.
Yep.
And
Yep.
of course, this was when you were a junior in high school, in college.
No, I was 24. I found it in my brother's basement.
He done graduated.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Where else were you sticking that? Getting suction.
yeah, there's a lot of cartoons like that though. Because the other one that you mentioned, Brave Star earlier.
No, he mentioned Brave
I
Star.
mentioned Brave Star.
I was
I
thinking
had
about-
some of the toys because my grandmother bought after the show and
Yeah.
it went into like Big Lots clearance for $4 because they were really expensive toys
Oh yeah.
because they had the electronics and you could
Here's
shoot
my
them.
only thing that I was thinking about Brave Star the other day, and I remember watching my brother.
Because that's what I do.
My brother loved it, and I was just thinking, my daughter was playing with a toy, and it was a horse.
Of course.
It was a unicorn, actually. And I said, well, the unicorn needs to get a gun. And she goes, Dang, that doesn't make any sense. And I automatically flash back to Brave Star, his partner, 4040, the
Yeah.
talking horse that carried the big gun.
He's double the man in 2020.
All I could think about is,
2020 was a Shetland pony.
What is he talking about now?
he's just
He's
going on.
he's gone into your
I was
territory.
gonna say, see, I get crap all the time.
I
I get
really-
feedback of James goes off on tangents, and then he mumbles stuff.
I just really think 2020 was a Shetland pony. This is the funniest thing I've said in 3 days.
I think that's sad
3
for
days?
your last 3 days.
Really?
I think
3
that's sad
days.
for his last 3 days.
You don't want to
Anyway,
stretch that out a little?
New
Brave Star,
I still think it's hilarious.
because Brave Star, it was a planet Texas, right?
Oh, it's stupid.
I've never watched
And
Brave
Planet
Star.
Dumb.
He has the eyes. I mean, it's cool because he has powers.
Yeah.
Eyes of the Hawk,
and then the
Strength of
villain's
the Bear.
half dead or of zombie kind
Yeah,
of
he's
thing.
basically Jonah Head.
It's
So Jonah
Jonah
Head's
Head.
ripoff. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, as an 8-year-old pitching it, okay, listen, he's got these powers. He's got the animal powers, even though he's on an alien planet, which is conveniently called Texas. And
I don't remember that actually.
his partner is a horse, but he doesn't ride him. His partner carries a gun, talks.
Why would
and
you
is a
ride
bounty
your
hunter.
partner?
I'll explain marriage to you later.
Please do. I've heard about this sex thing, but have never experienced it myself.
Don't worry.
Have I introduced you to my son?
Don't worry. It'll be over for you quickly, and she'll be disappointed.
I found
Um,
him in a Cabbage Patch. Did
But Phil keeps sending checks.
they have a Cabbage Patch Kids cartoon?
Yes.
Why isn't that on the table?
Because I've never
Because
seen
I've only no.
Why don't we have Strawberry Shortcake?
No.
You
Why
want
don't
one?
we have
And
Rose
Rainbow
Petal?
Bright.
Well, or Rose Petal. Rose Petal's more obscure one. I didn't even know that till
I didn't even
Kristen-
know what the hell Rose Petal is.
Oh, we have the whole line.
Good for you.
Uh,
Want a medal?
He chalked the
Yes.
whole line before he started shooting.
Hey, they say they won't, but if you chalk the line,
They will.
James taught me that.
I got taught that by a guy I worked with at Dairy Queen way back in the day.
But I'm just saying this. I just realized this is.
We also don't have Pound Puppies on there, which
It's
is also
kind of-
it's also the name of a porno. I don't know if that's true or not.
It should be.
I don't know if it's true.
I hope it is. If it isn't, it's sad. But we don't have more.
Well, I talked to my wife before I left. I was
Well,
gonna
good
say
for
this.
you. Finally, did she come home? I know she left you.
Well,
The
Big
last words they said to each other were, "I do, I guess."
The last words you said was, "I'm pregnant. It's not yours. I'm killing us all."
No, I talked to her. It was at 100 yards, so we had to yell to that restraining order.
Yes.
But I was like, I said, I was like, I know what I watched. What did you watch as a kid? And she goes, actually, I watched He-Man, but then I watched She-Ra. She-Ra, and as she said,
And My Little Pony.
Let me quote my wife. No, actually, no. She said, I love She-Ra. I loved Inspector Gadget. And I said, really, Inspector Gadget?
Inspector Gadget as a kid.
And she said, yes, as
About
a young
that
girl.
much.
I was going to say, it was all Don Adams for me.
Don Adams.
But my wife's response to that, she said, as a young girl, Penny was the one that was doing everything. Penny was
that's true.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Because Inspector Gadget was voiced by Don Adams. Don Adams.
And later Maurice LaMarche after Don Adams.
And for you all who don't know Don Adams was a comic genius who was in a show called Get Smart that was created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry.
Which that's basically what Inspector Gadget is. It's Get Smart with
gadgets.
Yeah,
he's
with
basically
he's a cyborg.
Yeah.
He's some sort of RoboCop.
Oh,
It's true.
Anyway, and Christy talked about that too. Then but she played with GI Joes and He-Man and My Little Ponies because it was mainly girls in her household. But and it was like, well, the GI Joes are fighting the My Little Ponies that got into the ooze and were transformed into. So
and so that's. But my wife said, she goes, really, if you looked at it, she said Smurfs.
But we don't have Smurfs up here. Right?
But she said, realistically, like Inspector Gadget, in some weird way, in the 80s, was a strong female character. Because Inspector Gadget would die 1,000 times over if it wasn't for Penny and Brain. Brain being the dog.
Yeah.
But Penny was the real hero of that show. And so, as we were talking, as you were saying, we didn't have a lot, I was sitting there going, Inspector Gadget, Smurfs, and She-Ra is what my wife loved.
What'd your wife watch?
Oh, she didn't watch a lot.
Copious porn. It was really a sad childhood.
Double clicking that mouse. So
she likes Smurfs. My wife did like Smurfs a lot.
Smurfs. I don't know. I was just thinking maybe if we do
Socialists.
another episode, we probably should talk about some of these things.
But I know we got to close out. But I think some of this.
Where are we at?
We're at over 45 minutes now. I think we can't close out, and I know you said we'll do another one. But out of everything we have on this table. And I know we didn't talk about Ninja Turtles, but obviously a big culture impact.
Yeah.
But didn't the Ninja Turtles is a 90s cartoon to me.
Came out in 86.
I'm sorry, you're right.
86.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Because I didn't get it.
The movie came out in 89, right?
Yep.
90. Came out in
90.
Okay.
Went into production in 89.
New Line Cinema.
But,
Yo, really?
But
He had.
the other...
I thought you were making fun of me of going, what's a New Line?
But,
No.
what we don't have on here that we are idiots for not having on here, because it's the biggest 80s animation of all time, and it's one that you can't talk about pop culture and not touch.
What? Care Bears?
The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
But when we're talking about 80s, I guess,
80,
but we're talking about
1989.
80s like Saturday morning.
Well, and I was about to say, and that's what I wanted to get to too, is that
let's get to that.
Do you think The Simpsons spelled the end of
No.
traditional Saturday morning cartoons?
No.
I think Saturday morning cartoons died with video games. I think Saturday morning cartoons died with the internet. I think Saturday morning cartoons died with everything else that we're going to. And
it also became expensive when in the mornings they could put on news programming, which is cheap.
Yeah.
And
Jack Hanna doing another 47th show about an animal.
Animation got too expensive.
Is there any Saturday morning cartoons?
No.
As somebody with kids, the only way my kids get to see animation is either Cartoon Network or Disney. And there are some.
Does Nickelodeon do any?
Not as many as you would think.
Okay.
Because
or they watch reruns basically on Boomerang.
Or they watch these.
Right, Boomerang.
Yeah.
I get to introduce my kids to animation.
The 80s and 90s were premier time for cartoon television. Because television on cartoon.
The other thing, and I know we didn't get to talk about DuckTales, and I know you said we'll do another one, but
we didn't talk about Transformers really either.
So we'll circle back to this topic, and we'll try to be more organized. But interesting trivia.
When are we ever organized?
To whet your appetite for our next conversation about 80s cartoons.
And could you use a better phrase than whet your appetite? That just sounds gross.
Could you use a better phrase?
Hey, why don't you spit all over that phone you're watching us on or listening to us on?
I think you should change it to moist your hunger.
That's better.
How about moist your palate?
That sounds like moist.
No.
No. I was going to say something I won't.
I bet you won't. Until the camera stops. But, interesting trivia. What's one of the most well-known parts of DuckTales?
Woohoo, the theme song.
Do you know how much he got paid for that?
$20.
Probably nothing because Disney paid it.
$1,000.
Disney is notorious for not paying.
To sign away the rights to that song that everybody that knows that You may not remember episodes, but you remember the song. Here's the
So much so that when they rebooted it, they had the new cast singing it as their viral marketing.
As their viral marketing.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Terrible.
But, and it is a theme used, again, they just re-recorded it. But he got him back. He came back to do the theme song for Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers later. And I hope his salary went up. But, so there's a lot more to talk about here. I guess we really only covered what? He-Man a little bit.
A little bit. I think we could
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters and a little bit of DuckTales and a little bit of Cops. And Mask and a few things. I do want to talk real quick, though, for people who may not realize this or are not of a certain age. I mean, Saturday morning cartoons, the world kind of stopped for that. You got up early.
Yeah, I got up early.
And then in September when the new cartoons came out, you were there.
Yeah, I was there every
You didn't
morning.
get to watch it later. There was no DVR. There was no
VHS,
TiVo. There was
you didn't record it.
Well, in
Maybe.
early '80s, you didn't even record.
No.
Did you have a VCR in '83?
No,
You were 2, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't
I
even
was
remember.
3. I was 3. But no, and that's the thing. But here's what's
Haley
funny
wasn't
about
born
this.
yet.
I'm really explaining it to her.
Here's what's really funny about that. You just got an eye roll.
It's
here's
not my
what's really-
first nor my last.
Here's what's really funny about that, though, that I do think is valid, is that you would get up early.
Yeah.
You
Like,
get
I
up
can
early.
remember
And
when
then
I
you
was
were-
school age, it was getting up at 6:45 to meet the bus at 7:30, and literally my mom having to drag me. Saturday morning, I would accidentally wake up at 5:30 and have to watch the national anthem played.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, the local affiliate always began their broadcast day with "Go Tell It on the Mountain." And I would have to sit through the. Sorry, people. I would have to stand through the national anthem, and I would have to sit through the "Go
Religious
Tell It on the
programming,
Mountain."
yeah.
Yep. And then at 5:30 or 6, depending on the channel, all of a sudden cartoons would come on, and they would play till noon, maybe 12:30.
Yeah.
No,
I
it
mean,
played
did
till
it start at
11
8 a.m.?
I think it started at 7 or 8 a.m. and then it went on till 11.
And your
11?
7 a.m. was your low rent cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your new ones was about 8 or 9. I can remember, for example, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I can barely remember as a kid knowing this was coming out
Yeah.
and watching it. Now I can barely remember it, and I went back to
I
watch
remember
this,
the theme song,
And by
which
the-
isn't on those DVDs.
which isn't on these DVDs, and
The-
have they ever released all the
No.
episodes?
And they cut those together, made 2 movies.
Yeah.
I remember.
It's
the
terrible,
cuts aren't great.
But I was so excited, and there was an Ewoks cartoon.
I was gonna say the Ewoks cartoon, which I couldn't find the DVD for, and Disney, I'm betting will never release those again. So if you find one, get it. If you're
Yeah, they're bad because they've never finished off the Muppet Show. They never went past the 3rd season.
But I think you're right. I mean, I don't think people understand. My kids don't get why Saturday
it was an event, and it was Saturday morning
It's the
cartoon.
same-
And then
and
it
they were-
started in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Because I've read Harlan Ellison has written essays about him being a grown man but loving to watch Saturday morning cartoons.
And I think it was one of the times too that it did have that family feeling. When Animaniacs quit being on Fox and went to the WB and it showed on Saturday mornings, and I was older then, but I mean my dad sat down and watched cartoons. He liked the Animaniacs. He could care less about all the other ones, but he liked Animaniacs, and it gave us that Saturday morning. I would eat whatever. We would eat breakfast. We would go watch that. Then Dad would start to complain and watch sports.
And then if you were going to school through the week, not all these were Saturday morning cartoons like DuckTales, He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe. Those were all in syndication on
And they
at 3 and
played it,
4 and 5 o'clock
Yeah.
when you get home from school.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, it used to be
Ninja Turtles, all of those.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it used to be, I think it was Transmorphers. You got me saying Transmorphers. Transformers was on 4:30 till 5. I got home at 4 from the bus. 4:30 to 5. And then 5, they used to do the local news, which at the time was literally so low rent. It was horrible.
Buy a
Um,
hog, sell a dog. or
Yeah,
buy a
type
dog,
stuff.
sell a dog.
And we got out of Huntington, and not Lexington, which was always weird to me. But then at 6, they started rerunning Star Trek, and that's when my dad got home.
Yeah.
And I would watch Star Trek with him. So I think you're right. I think so much of it. I mean, I think my kids, when they watch something now, I found something that had commercials still in it. And they were like, what are these?
Well, they don't watch anything live.
No. No, it's always, Daddy, can you fast forward? No.
On demand,
No.
DVR'd, at the fingertips.
And I know now
You
we're
what
sounding
you
like
want?
those old guys, like, I'm millennial. No, but I
it's
think
not, it's a better thing. There's more
It is.
access to anything as far as that goes. It's just there's a sweet little spot in time that for some of us that we have recollections of something that doesn't exist anymore. And yes, we're being nostalgic, and it's great that we can get access to all this stuff
there's
now
some
where
of
you
it
couldn't
that
at the time.
is-
If you missed it, you missed it unless you caught it in a rerun.
there's some of
And
it.
then you were conflicted as hell when you had on Saturday morning on the premieres line. You
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
see-
ABC, NBC, and CBS.
They all aired at the same time, so you'd be conflicted as hell. And I'm bringing up some obscure ones. Like on Fox, you'd want to watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
That-
but
no,
then at the
you
same
wanted-
time, on ABC, is the Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Oh my God, which one do
And
I
this
watch?
is 90s. This is not even 80s.
I know, this is 90s. I couldn't come up with 80s off the top of my head.
Oh,
so I think
I
I'll-
remember-
I wanted to watch Foofer, but it was on at the same time as Gummy Bears.
There you go.
I mean, yeah,
God.
you guys are old, or yeah, because I actually go a little older, like the Pac-Man cartoon.
No, I love the Pac-Man cartoon.
or the wrestling cartoon, the WWF,
one of the
the
Hulkamaniacs.
Hulkamaniacs.
One of my favorite ones, by the way, as far as 80s cartoons.
Snorks.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Swim
Smurfs.
along with us. I always preferred
Smurfs underwater.
I
I
preferred
like-
Snorks to Smurfs.
I
I
like
think
the
Smurfs were
Snorks as a
socialists.
kid. I don't know, but I also like Gummy Bears as a kid.
I think we're
We're running.
we got to wrap up.
We got to
We're getting-
wrap up.
But
we're going to come back.
We'll
to this.
come back to this, but I do think I know I went off on a tangent.
Shocker.
Admittedly. Yeah, no. Continue to talk
I
about
didn't even
Snow
get
Job.
to. I didn't even get to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, which is another.
Well,
great
we'll
one.
get to it.
Oh,
We'll get to
God,
it. We'll
Dungeons
come
and
back
Dragons
to
was
this.
great.
But I do think the point being made
Dog
is
butters.
you talked about
Here.
You talked about the intersection of so much of this, and this I will make one academic point to close this out. The reason I wanted to share the story about Scooby-Doo and all of that is that it also shows at a point in time when, in some ways, crazy people. It was the asylum for running the inmate as far as animation. Almost anything could.
The inmates were running the asylum.
Yeah, that too. But you also had this weird parent feedback loop, and things had to be educational, and things had to have. So I think the fact that
Whereas-
13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which had an award-winning actor in it, got taken off because it was used to market toys, and there wasn't a toy line, and it shows that intersection of this. As we were talking about, this was all very much of its time.
Yeah, they're very much
Now we would have to worry about, is Optimus Prime fuel efficient?
Now, and we're not even talking about. It's talking about stuff that was based on bloody violence. I mean, we had a Rambo cartoon.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
I was just sitting here thinking.
and
it
Chad
just
has the ever epic Chuck Norris cartoon.
Yeah,
And that's pre-Walker. That's before he became that Texas
Ranger. Well, thanks so much. We're going to do another one of these.
Maybe.
No, I think we
No, I really do. I'm hoping you all enjoyed this. We'll come back to it. I don't know that we'll come back to it immediately.
I will not bring up 13 Ghosts Scooby-Doo again, but I
Promise.
I say we never talk about Scooby-Doo again.
Yeah, there's so many though. Like when we started this, I knew that this was going to be more than one episode because there's just so many.
Yeah.
And you could actually argue that you could do a Scooby-Doo timeline and see how it has reflected to the culture of its time.
So, if you want us to talk about one of your favorite cartoons, tweet us, Facebook us.
Tweet us on the Facebook.
Tweet us on the Facebook,
Twitter.
Instagram, whatever, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about.
And again, go on to YouTube, Bonehead Humor, SoundCloud, about Bonehead Humor, iTunes, Bonehead Humor. Rate us, subscribe.
And check out our friend Mick Strawn too at Dream
Dream
Warriors. He's a really big fan, or he's a friend of the show.
And he does amazing stuff still.
Does some good stuff.
And check out his website. Some of the other stuff that he does, you really need to check out. The final thing I will say, Joe made this point earlier. I want to close this episode with this. If we left off one of your favorite 80s cartoons, if you happen to be female or a male, I don't care.
I'd really like to get a female perspective.
What cartoons did you watch that you were obsessed with in the 80s, if you are of a similar age range as we are, that we left off? Was She-Ra your thing? Did you prefer the Smurfs, Rainbow Bright? I don't know. Let us know. I want to know. And if you'll tell us why,
Care Bears.
we will read the Care Bear Stare.
I actually watched Care Bears.
I watched Care Bears too.
I
watched the movie and enjoyed it.
I like the second one.
I
The Care Bear Cousins.
This was Dark Heart.
I had
the Care Bear Cousins.
Yeah, I actually had one of the Care Bear
I
Cousins
can't believe I
as a
pulled
kid.
Dark Heart out of my
I did
butt.
too. I had the penguin.
I had the elephant. He was strong-hearted.
Thank you
All right,
all
we're
so much.
done.
And Haley's done.
Watch your, but let us know. And matter of fact, you send us a comment where you say, this is why I like this cartoon, we'll read it.
Thank
Unless
you.
we get a lot of them. But
Peace
Thanks.
out, home skillets.
Get
Go.
the hell out of my office.
So, Utz crab chip potato chips. Would you like some?
No.
Sponsored by
You know,
Utz.
when you try
Or we
to-
could be if Utz would get off their butt and pay us.
Off their butts.
When you try to stage
Utz and
this,
butts.
Butt Utz.
no.
They suck. They taste like Old Bay on.
Unless they
Shitty
sponsor
potato
us, Joe, in which case that's the best chip you've ever
They
had.
sponsored us. Eat one.
I've had it. I'm not eating it.
Would you do it if they paid you?
Well, hell yes.
Well,
I've
there
seen-
you go. You're a whore.
I've seen what he's done.
And you're going to hell. This would be like the third episode where I told somebody.
Well,